and I wake up on a bathroom floor with an overwhelming desire to end my life. And here I was the guy who had everything. The reality is when I went back into that condo at night, I was like a 5-year-old boy afraid of the dark. The worst day of my life became the best day of my life. It was the catalyst for change. And yet my life was going for shit. And I woke up 3 years later. I'm separated from my wife for a while, living in this really fancy ass condo downtown Edmonton. And I wake up on a bathroom floor with an overwhelming desire to end my life. And here I was the guy who had everything. And I was always good. If you asked me, even at that time, I'd moved out of my house and people would say, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Good." "Yeah, good." It's always open. My wife and I aren't together. I moved out. She doesn't want me around. I'm not talking to my son, but he turned 18. So, that's just what happens. And I might get booted out of the company that I co-founded, but honestly, it's been a long time. It's probably for the best. And I'd be like, "So yeah, pretty good." The reality is when I went back into that condo at night, I was like a 5-year-old boy afraid of the dark. I would literally lock every door in that thing. And I would most of the times eat my supper in the dark in the bedroom, and I'd lay in the fetal position, and I'd get up the next day and I would go to work and I'd push myself out. And I started binge drinking a lot. And one day I woke up in that condo on a bathroom floor with an overwhelming desire to end my life. And that was the worst day of my life became the best day of my life. It was the catalyst for change. I got up off the floor, and you were talking about at the beginning of the workshop, the master class, how your emotions just came out and you were crying. I remember laying on that bathroom floor and wanting to cry so bad, and I had tears start to come down my eyes. And I got up off the floor and I was like, "Fuck this. I am not going to cry. I refuse to cry." And I looked in the mirror and I was like, I am not crying. And I was washing my face. And for the first time that I could ever remember as an adult, my eyes caught my eyes. And I thought, what would I tell a friend if they told me that they felt how I felt, in spite of the fact they had all the stuff, like the toys, the money, and the wife, and the kid, and the family, but felt the way I felt. And I thought, if a friend told me that, I would say, "Oh, I get it. I totally get it." And both are true. Please don't give up. Please get help. And in that moment, I grabbed my phone, started Googling help, and ended up reaching out randomly to a life coach because I didn't want to go to a psychiatrist or psychologist. I was like, I don't want people to think I'm crazy. Found this life coach, sent her a note randomly. She got back to me, and I didn't say anything other than, "Hey, I'd like to come in and see you, going through some stuff. If you have an opening." She got back to me 30 minutes later, and I believe it was divine intervention now. 30 minutes later, and she had a cancellation for the next day, which is unheard of to get into somebody that quickly. I went and saw her the next day, and my life began to change from that experience. She actually asked me how I was doing. So I walk in and I'm like, "I'm good. Wife kicked me out. Son's not talking to me. Might lose my job. Career I've spent this company but otherwise it's awesome." And she was like, "You're not good, and that's not okay." And I was like, "No, I'm totally okay." She said, "No, you're not." And then she said, "I'm very worried about you, and I can't help you." She said, "But do not leave this office. Promise me you won't leave this office. I have to go get somebody." And I'm like, "I am fine." And she's like, "You're not fine. Please don't go. I have to go." And she said, "I'll be back in 2 minutes." And she came back, and she with this big dude, and he put his hand out and said, "Hey, Trev, I'm Dr. Gons. I'm here going through some stuff." And I was like, "I'm fine. She's got me freaked out. I'm okay." He's like, "I'm sure you are." Pulled me into another room for about 10 minutes, talked to me, and had me come the next day to see him. And she pulled him out of a session. And that man helped, well, her and him helped save my life. And she saw something, she saw through the crap, which probably most people would have. And then he helped put me on a different path. And so one of the things that I learned from all of that, and there's a whole story to that, and I learned about the champagne glass pyramid from him, the thing that we taught in the master class, and how you have to fill yourself first. And I learned a whole bunch of things, but one of the things I learned from that experience was I felt like nobody would ever understand. Nobody would ever understand how I feel. And I was always like, hey, I have the stuff. I shouldn't feel this way. I have the wife and kids. And I could look around and I'm a positive person and I could see how bad everyone else had it. And I thought, how unfair of me. Like, what is wrong with me that I'd feel this way? And a few years later, lots of inner work, and lots of help. And I had a mentor in my life say to me one day, he said, I have great news for you, Trev. I said, what's that? He said, you no longer have to suffer from terminal uniqueness.